inflation of the money supply. So inflation seeps in gradually and undermines the ability of people to get to resources such as food, fuel, water, and housing. You know, and this is something that I've termed as unobtainable surplus. For instance, in the American healthcare system, you have firms that have it's taking most of the doctors that are produced by of a high standard into um, the medical profession into a very small amount of firms, and of course, in terms of regulating those firms, whether they're doing legal actions or not, it's a real problem because when you've got very few firms competing against each other, it's something that Ron Paul has actually talked about. It's very easy for them to start to capture through bribes or taking the regulators to the golf course and everything else. Even if they're not incorporated through a government system, they start to incorporate themselves. If you have unobtainable surplus, it means that the surplus is large, but like healthcare or housing, for instance, in Britain there is 1 million houses produced which are left abandoned. Why is that? Because the price is in disharmony with the context of nature and the technology and human actions, i.e. economic agents, i.e. citizens, which we all are, yeah, using that technology to gain the true value of money. So currency is running amok either in inflation or in deflation, for instance, because Japan has a terrible problem with deflation because their people don't consume that much. They save, which is just as big a problem as having too much consumerism and not enough savings. Yeah, and that is all caused because the currency is based either on the value of a commodity, which is a psychological idea, yeah, as well as a technological idea and a technological resource, and also the psychological idea of producing vast amounts or decreasing the amount of currency, which is just paper or data, you know, or coins, for instance. And this is not a new problem, of course, because the Romans, of course, were chopping coins up and debasing their coins by using less precious metals or anything else. It's not a problem that's been solved in the last 2,000 years, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to solve it. So if price is high and you have a surplus, the price acts as a barrier to entry to customers, and thus only the richest people, and rich is only a comparatively thing where one person has more economic power than another. It means that some people are barred from entry into those hospitals. Now, if you have the problem of the paradox in people's understanding of central banks, is that they either are producing so much money because they know everything that's going on, they have perfect knowledge, and it's all designed to fail, and then you have financial cannibalism basically, and maybe war, which is a form of economic cannibalism, i.e. people take out mortgages in the good times, they then borrow that money, and when they go to war, they die in conflict, and the bank repossesses the actual physical real assets. I mean, that did happen in World War One. It happened in World War Two. It probably continues to happen. I've even heard of a story from Gulf War One that happened to a soldier in a British regiment. That's from 1991. So it does happen, but was it planned? You know, generally speaking, people in central banking don't have perfect knowledge. So the counter argument is made that they are incompetent to run the central bank and to run the economy, and so therefore, as Ron Paul says, we have a money market system where gold is competing against fiat dollars, and or the petrodollar. So in that system, all you've got is fiat money, U.S. Treasury bonds, which are backed on the ability which other countries take on U.S. debt, because they believe that it being backed by the U.S. government, and the U.S. government always being able to pay, means that if they take on that debt, they'll get some interest from taking on that debt, and of course then that is subject to speculation by speculators and rating agencies and everything else, who are all trying to make money on the margin of those loans. So it gets kind of complicated because more and more different kinds of currency are being created. So Ron Paul's idea of adding another dimension to that battle between fiat and commodity currency, to me, is an imperfect solution. Right, but the problem that we need to do is trying to make money and currency more similar, more in harmony with each other. And the way to do that, in my view, is to make, in the case of central banking, central banks cooperatives, so everyone would have a share in the central bank, and therefore they would have fiscal responsibility, because if they didn't work hard enough, the price of their shares would go down. All the profits from that enterprise and the other firms in the system would then be reinvested into new technology, new research and development, which would thus bring the whole system to a higher level, with all the different inputs and actions going on, and trades in that system, producing a higher synthesis and thus a higher value of real money in the system. If you look at, for instance, the case of cooperative housing, you would have people, and you do have people where cooperative housing has taken on, people either buying into pre-built houses or people learning the building trade to help build houses to get their share, unless you're adding to not only the actual infrastructure of the country, but you're adding to people's skills, because they will want to get those skills to be able to get themselves a house. If you have a system where you have unobtainable surplus, you're going to price people out of housing, and you'll cause homelessness. You will have, therefore, big mansions in some places which are empty, and those because the market dictates what should happen with them. They're either going to stay within the unobtainable surplus and become slums or derelict, or you can see that all over, like places like Mayfair and upmarket areas of London, supposedly upmarket, people going in there for shelter because they've been made homeless through the structural problems. There are other reasons for homelessness, but I would say that structural problems are the main thing that drive people into their social problems as well.